Every state in the US hides at least one home that defies convention. Places that are so quirky, creative, or downright bizarre that we might ask ourselves, why would anyone build this? Hi everyone, Ken here. Hit that subscribe button and let's uncover the most unusual house in every state. We're starting off with Alabama. Perched 400 feet above Alabama's Lewis Smith Lake is a towering castle of sorts built into the side of a cliff. Built in 1980 as a private residence, Smith Lake Castle might look somewhat unassuming from the front, but the moment you turn the corner, it's apparent that this is an unusual house. The interior is pretty much everything you might not expect, from painted columns to a balustrated grand staircase, but it does have sweeping views of the lake. Buckle up, the list only gets more interesting from here. Hidden in the woods outside Talkeetna, Alaska, the so-called Dr. Seuss house looks like a stack of log cabins piled straight into the sky. Officially named Goose Creek Tower, this whimsical, all-wooden tower stands about 185 feet tall. Construction is stretched over 2 decades, and at the top, you can purportedly see 300 miles on a clear day. In the desert foothills of Phoenix, Arizona stands Mystery Castle, a sprawling 18-room, 3-story structure built in the 1930s by Boyce Luther Gully for his daughter. Gully, diagnosed with tuberculosis, fled Seattle and constructed this castle from found materials. Think stone, adobe, old car parts, railroad tracks, and even telephone poles, all bound together with a mixture of mortar, cement, and as legend has it, goat's milk. This quirky castle features a chapel, a cantina, and a dungeon, and parts of it remained purposely unfinished. Arkansas's most unusual home is hidden underground, or rather, inside a cave. Beckham Creek Cave Lodge in Parthenon, Arkansas is a 5,600 square foot luxury home built entirely within a natural cavern. Don't be fooled by its primitive exterior. Inside, the lodge offers a gourmet kitchen, Wi-Fi, and even a geothermal system that keeps the cave comfortably at 65 degrees Fahrenheit year-round. Northern California's Flintstone House looks like it could be Fred and Wilma's weekend retreat. This freeform dome residence in Hillsborough, California was built in 1976 using experimental techniques that involve spraying concrete over balloon molds. Visible from Interstate 280, the house has become a beloved local landmark, especially after its current owner added giant dinosaur and mammoth sculptures to the yard to complete the Stone Age theme. High on Genesee Mountain overlooking Denver, Colorado sits the Sculptured House, a gleaming white UFO-like abode famously featured in Woody Allen's film Sleeper. Built in 1963 by architect Charles Deaton, this elliptical marvel of modernism features a soaring curving form that appears to hover above the mountainside. Deaton said he wanted the shape to sing an unencumbered song on that mountaintop, whatever that means. The interior remained unfinished for almost 40 years until a new owner completed it in 2003, creating a 7,700 square foot home with 5 levels, 5 bedrooms, and a rooftop pool inside the futuristic shell. Connecticut's wildest home looks like something from a sci-fi movie. Locals call it the Mushroom House, but its official name is Star Castle, a fitting moniker for the spaceship-like abode in New Fairfield. Built in 1985, the 5,000 square foot house consists of massive white domes that were constructed by spraying polyurethane foam over inflated balloons. The result is a cluster of bulbous pods that resemble giant mushrooms or a grounded starship amid the woods. Inside are 4 bedrooms, 5 bathrooms, and even a sunken conversation pit by a stone fireplace, all lit by panoramic windows with views over 23 acres of forest. Originally inspired by Star Trek and designed by architect Roy Mason for an eccentric guitar maker, this home is as fantastical as they come in Connecticut. Delaware's most unusual dwelling is straight out of the space age. The Vincelette Futuro House in Houston, Delaware is a rare surviving example of the Futuro, a flying saucer-shaped prefab house designed in the late 1960s by Finnish architect M. Surinen. Deep in the swamps of Florida stands a castle that truly shines. Literally, Solomon's Castle in Ono, Florida is a 12,000 square foot, 3-story castle home covered entirely in silver metal printing plates that glint in the sun. Eccentric artist Howard Solomon began building this DIY castle in 1974 using discarded aluminum sheets from a local newspaper to clad the exterior walls. Over the years, he added countless whimsical touches, over 80 stained glass windows, countless welded sculptures adorning the courtyard, and even a 60-foot-long replica of a 16th century Spanish galleon dubbed the Boat in the Moat restaurant. Until his passing in 2016, Solomon himself gave pun-filled tours of the castle's oddities. Today, Solomon's Castle is open to visitors, allowing anyone to wander through this gleaming DIY palace. Thomasville, Georgia is home to a Victorian-era masterpiece of odd architecture, the Lapham Patterson House. Completed by 1885 as a winter cottage, this 19-room home is famed for its intentional lack of symmetry. None of the doors, windows, or even corners line up in the usual way. The result is a maze of quirky angles and odd shapes that was more than just an artistic flourish. The original owner survived the Great Chicago Fire and became so paranoid about being trapped that he gave his southern mansion 51 exit points, including a door in literally every room, to ensure a quick escape, despite the house being built entirely out of wood. Now a museum and a National Historic Landmark, visitors can get delightfully lost in its highly unusual design. On Hawaii's Big Island, overlooking a famous black sand beach, sits a home that's as dramatic as its setting. The Kahina Beach Cliff House is an all-concrete abode perched on a lava cliff sticking out further into the Pacific than any of its neighbors. This unique two-bedroom house was even featured on HGTV's Offbeat America for its design. Idaho's pick for most unusual house is a $7 million ultra-modern mansion so futuristic it's nicknamed the Sun Valley Starship. Completed in 2020 after more than a decade of construction, this custom-built estate in Blaine County spans over 12,000 square feet. It has 5 bedrooms, 5 baths, and every cutting-edge luxury imaginable, from a rooftop swimming pool to an outdoor amphitheater and a private horse pasture on the grounds. The home's bold concrete and glass architecture is full of quirky angles and dramatic cantilevers. Every room benefits from playful, one-of-a-kind design touches and stunning alpine views. Described by its listing agent as a piece of art, the Sun Valley Starship was named one of the world's most unique homes, and whether you love its bunker-like style or not, it's certainly out of this world. In Wadsworth, Illinois, there's a 6-story pyramid rising from an unlikely suburban landscape. The Gold Pyramid House is a 17,000 square foot residence shaped exactly like a giant golden pyramid. Built in 1977, the house was originally plated entirely in 24-karat gold and was said to be the largest gold-plated object in North America. A fire in 2018 wrought significant damage, but as of today, restorations are nearly complete. Indianapolis, Indiana is home to a notorious legend in real estate. The Kessler Mansion started as a modest ranch, but its owner spent years enlarging it into a 29,500 square foot maze of marble, mirrors, and statuary. He added things like a 12-car garage, dolphin and gargoyle statues galore, a dining room lined with a hall of mirrors, and an infamous living room with 38 light switches arrayed in neat rows. Iowa's most unusual home brings a bit of ancient Egypt to America's heartland, again. In the lakeside town of Clear Lake, Iowa, you can actually stay in a pyramid-shaped house, a 6-bedroom vacation rental known simply as Pyramid House. Inside, the house is surprisingly normal and spacious. Kansas's entry isn't just a house, it's an entire art environment. In the tiny town of Lucas, retired Civil War veteran S.P. Dinsmore built his own Garden of Eden, a folk art masterpiece surrounding his modest stone home. Beginning in 1907, Dinsmore spent decades sculpting over 150 concrete figures and dioramas in his yard. There are larger-than-life biblical characters, plus political and philosophical figures symbolizing his populist ideals. His property includes a stone log cabin house and even a limestone pyramid mausoleum out back, where Dinsmore himself is embalmed and on display in a glass-top coffin. Rising from the rolling pastures near Versailles, Kentucky, is a sight you'd sooner expect in medieval Europe, a full-scale stone castle complete with corner towers and crenellated walls. Known as the Kentucky Castle or Martin Castle, this architectural oddity was begun in 1969 by a wealthy couple inspired by castles they saw on a honeymoon trip. Originally intended as their dream home, the castle was never finished after the couple's divorce. New owners in the 2000s completed it and converted it into a luxury boutique hotel. Leave it to New Orleans, Louisiana to turn a gas station into a chic abode. In the Mid-City neighborhood, artist Robert Guthrie took a disused 1918 Sinclair gas station and converted it into a modern loft home that's equal parts historic and trendy. From the street, the building still resembles a vintage filling station. complete with the old canopy over what used to be pumps. But large glass windows now fill the garage bays, and a sleek second-story addition rises above. Inside, Guthrie created a light-filled residence with high ceilings, an open chef's kitchen, and industrial chic touches hinting at its automotive past. The 2,000 square foot plus layout even incorporates the original station's concrete floors and some vintage signage as art. High on a coastal hillside in Bar Harbor, Maine, the Starboard House looks like a spacecraft that chose a pine forest for its landing spot. Designed in 1990 by architect James Shaull, a student of Frank Lloyd Wright, this bold residence is composed of daring angles and soaring geometric forms. The top level is wrapped in glass and floats above the treetops, offering 360-degree views of the surrounding canopy and ocean beyond. Beneath that, dramatic sloping rooflines and multi-story triangular windows give the home a futuristic, otherworldly vibe. Despite its avant-garde look, the Starboard House is very much livable, with updated interiors and an organic layout that follows the rocky landscape's contours. Tucked in a suburban, cookie-cutter Maryland neighborhood is a home so funky and fairy tale-esque that locals call it the Mushroom House. In the late 1960s, owners in Bethesda hired architect Roy Mason to transform their conventional house into something magical, and he delivered in the form of a curvy, foam-covered creation. Mason applied polyurethane foam over the existing structure to create organic, rounded shapes, arches, and bulbous forms, resulting in a domicile that truly looks like a cluster of giant mushrooms. Its bumpy beige exterior and pointy roof peaks have also earned it nicknames like the Smurf House and Hobbit House among unamused neighbors. On Cape Cod, there's an estate in East Sandwich that looks ready to set sail. Known as the Masthead, this historic Massachusetts property, built in 1898, incorporates the bow of a real sailing ship jutting out from the front of the house. Yes, an actual 42-foot wooden schooner front is fused onto the home's second story, complete with a prow and figurehead, making the mansion appear half boat, half house. The main house offers around 4,900 square feet of living space, with eclectic nautical decor to match its seafaring facade. In its Gilded Age heyday, owner John H. Foster hosted lavish parties here and even entertained President Grover Cleveland on the ship's deck or patio, depending on how you look at it. In Charlevoix, Michigan, a town already known for storybook mushroom houses, one cottage stands out, the Thatch House. This whimsical home looks like it was plucked from a fairy tale, with its curved stone walls, crooked chimneys, and a cascading roof of real thatch that swoops and swirls around gables and dormers. Originally a 1918 cottage, it was completely reimagined in recent years into a luxurious 6-bedroom home. Nicknamed the Hobbit House by locals, the Thatch House sold for a pricely sum a couple years ago, proving that people are willing to pay dearly to live in a home that's equal parts residence and fanciful work of art. Minnesota's most unusual home is a blast from the funky 1970s past, the Insculptic House in Ministria, often simply called the Foam House. This bulbous dwelling was constructed in 1971 out of polyurethane spray foam and steel rebars, creating a series of interconnected domes and caves that look like an art sculpture you can live in. The multi-level interior has no straight lines, even the doors and windows are odd shapes carved into the foam. After years of decay, a determined couple bought and restored the foam house, embracing its retro quirkiness. In Natchez, Mississippi, the crown jewel of bizarre homes is Longwood, the largest octagonal house in America and a poignant relic of the Civil War. Construction began in 1860 for wealthy planter Huller Nutt, who envisioned a lavish 6-story, 30,000 square foot mansion topped with a Byzantine onion dome. The exterior shell and 32-room first floor were finished, but when the war broke out, the northern craftsmen fled, leaving the upper 5 stories and interior incomplete. Nutt died in 1864, and his family ended up living in the relatively humble finished basement level while the grand upper floors remained a permanent construction site. Hence the nickname Nutt's Folly. Now a National Historic Landmark, Longwood offers tours that let visitors imagine what might have been. St. Louis, Missouri has its share of quirky architecture, but perhaps the wildest is a private residence that is completely unassuming from the sidewalk. Artist James King spent decades reimagining what an interior could be in an old row house. From pyramidal rooms to salvaged Victorian-era architectural elements, everything has been mashed together in an orderly but totally unusual fashion. I toured this house in person about 5 years ago, so I'll link that video at the end of this one if you want to see the whole thing. It really is quite unique. In Trout Creek, Montana, you'll find the Shire of Montana, a collection of rentable hobbit-themed tiny homes tucked into the hills. The most unusual of them is a literal hobbit house built into the earth, complete with a round wooden door and windows that blend into the grassy hillside. Inside, it's a cozy escape with knotted pine furnishings, a stone fireplace, and all the comforts a modern Baggins would need. The property, spread across 20 acres, also features a troll house and a fairy house, creating a full fantasy village in the Rockies. Nebraska's most offbeat house sits high on a limestone bluff in Bellevue overlooking the Missouri River. The 3,500 square foot home was built in 1971 with one of the most unique roof lines. Stepping inside, we can really get a sense of how the roof shape affects the interior space. The house is definitely a product of its time, with textured ceiling treatments and check carpet, giving the old saying, they really don't build them like they used to, a whole new meaning. Las Vegas is known for extravagant homes, but none are quite like the famed underground house. Just a few miles off the strip, beneath an unassuming house, lies a 16,000 square foot underground bunker home built in the 1970s. Designed as a luxury apocalypse hideaway, this subterranean mansion sits 26 feet below ground and is tricked out to feel like a retro suburban paradise. Murals of blue skies and mountains line the walls, outdoor lights simulate day and night, and there's a fake yard with a pool, trees, and even a guest house. The main subterranean house has 5 bedrooms, 1970s decor, and a full bar and entertainment room. There's also an elevator, underground garage, and generator systems. It's by far Nevada's most unusual domicile, a time capsule of Cold War-era optimism and Vegas-style flashiness. In Canterbury, New Hampshire sits a home so eclectic that realtors struggle to find words for it, often calling it the Flintstone House, Igloo House, Star Wars House, and more. The exterior is composed of white concrete and pebble-covered domes, connected in a cluster with porthole windows scattered about. Inside, custom mosaic tilework and cave-like plaster walls continue the fantasy theme. New Hampshire might best be known for its quaint farmhouses, but this one-of-a-kind artistic abode proves the Granite State has its share of far-out flair. Tucked in the woods of northwest New Jersey is Luna Park. Every surface is decorated, from the hand-laid tile mosaics covering exterior walls to the wild sculptures sprouting from the garden. Luna Park is open to the public a few days each year, drawing crowds who come to marvel at its living art environment. Albuquerque, New Mexico, lays claim to a house that looks ready for liftoff. The Bart Prince residence, named for its architect owner, is a wild, futuristic structure often dubbed the Spaceship House for its swooping, tubular design. Built in the 1980s, the home's main living quarters are contained in a long, curvy tube elevated above ground on stilts with rounded glass prow-like ends. In upstate New York, near Rochester, an iconic oddity blooms in the woods, the Mushroom House of Parenton. Built in 1969, this home consists of giant concrete pods perched on stems, very much resembling a cluster of mushrooms. Each pod is about 30 feet in diameter and serves as a separate area of the house, living room, bedroom, kitchen, etc., all connected by elevated walkways. The exterior is textured and was originally painted in earth tones, enhancing the organic mushroom look. Inside, the curving pod walls and round skylights create an otherworldly cave-like atmosphere. The Mushroom House is so unique it's been named a town landmark, and it periodically comes up for rent or sale, attracting those willing to pay a premium for life in a work of art. In Kernersville, North Carolina sits Corner's Folly, an 1880s Victorian-era house that bends every rule of architecture. Jewel Corner, a quirky designer, built this 3-story home as a sort of living catalog of his interior design business, resulting in 22 rooms of wildly varying styles and levels. Ceiling heights swing from a cramped 5.5 feet in some nooks to a soaring 25 feet in the top floor. Corner even built a private theater inside, considered the first private little theater in America. Locals dubbed the house Corner's Folly for its bizarre design, but today it's cherished as a museum. In the small town of Langsford, North Dakota, one homeowner decided to give the neighbors something to talk about by painting his entire house with giant polka dots. This otherwise ordinary home became a local sensation and slight controversy when it was covered in dozens of bright, multicolored polka dots on all sides. Reportedly, the owner initially did it as a lighthearted protest after some complaints about the previous paint job. Cincinnati, Ohio has its own mushroom house, and it's a sight to behold. Tucked in the Hyde Park neighborhood, this small, freeform house was built in the 1990s by architect Terry Brown as his personal residence and studio. Brown, an architecture professor, used sculpted wood, colored glass, shells, and metals to craft a fantastical one-bedroom cottage. The mushroom house is only about 1,200 square feet, but it packs a lot of imagination into a small footprint. Though it's in a residential area, the house became an artistic landmark in Cincinnati. It was sold a few years ago to new owners who vowed to preserve its magic. Just outside Tulsa, in the tiny town of Kiefer, Oklahoma, stands Kiefer Castle, a large, privately built castle-like residence complete with stone turrets and battlements right in rural Oklahoma. Portland, Oregon is famed for its houseboats, but one floating home outshines them all, the Aquastar. Inside are luxe touches like a spiral staircase and a captain's wheel. When it was up for sale recently, it made a splash on real estate news for its bold style and surprisingly spacious 3-bedroom layout. Owning the Aquastar means embracing life on the water and mooring among Portland's floating community. Oregon's most unusual home might not be on solid ground at all, but it sure floats someone's boat. If you've ever wanted to live in a shoe, Pennsylvania has you covered. Along Route 30 in York stands the Haynes Shoe House, a building shaped exactly like a giant work boot. Built in 1948 by shoe salesman Milan Haynes as an advertising gimmick, the 5-story shoe house is 25 feet tall and features shoe-ass details like shoelace eyelets around the roofline. Newport, Rhode Island is famous for Gilded Age mansions, but one stands out for its eccentric twist: Belcourt Castle, now known as Belcourt of Newport. Built in 1894 for Oliver Hazard Perry Belmont, this 50,000 square foot mansion was designed with an unusual purpose. The first floor was essentially a luxurious stable for Belmont's prized horses, complete with marble stalls and a grand carriage room. The living quarters were upstairs, accessible by an ornate staircase, so Belmont could walk down and admire his horses each morning. Over the years, later owners heavily modified Belcourt. It's a delightful blend of high society and oddball personal flair. South Carolina's strangest house is brewing up charm. While not much larger than a typical tiny home, the Teapot House stands as a lovable landmark. It was even featured on Zillow Gone Wild, attracting thousands of online admirers for its spot-on teapot appearance. Amid the pine forest of South Dakota's Black Hills sits a cabin that almost disappears into the scenery. Dubbed the Mirror Cabin, this modern tiny home is clad entirely in reflective mirrored panels on 3 sides, making it blend chameleon-like with the trees. The design is meant to immerse guests in nature. While the outside is mirrored, the interior is warm wood and glass, with large picture windows looking out, and one-way mirror coating preventing wildlife from seeing in. Deep in the Tennessee countryside near Springfield, a massive wooden ark sits perched on a hill, not an image you'd expect in the Smoky Mountain foothills. This structure, simply called the Ark, is a whimsical 3,400 square foot lodging built to resemble Noah's Ark, complete with a curved hole shape and faux smokestacks on top. On high plains outside Lubbock, Texas, a hulking structure of rusted steel commands the landscape, part house, part art sculpture. This is the Steel House, a legendary DIY project by sculptor Robert Bruno that took 34 years to build. From a distance, it looks almost like a giant metallic animal standing on 4 chunky legs. Up close, you see it's a multi-level home made of 110 tons of Corten steel, all welded by hand. Today, the Steel House has been stabilized and occasionally opens for tours, astounding visitors with its cathedral-like great room and panoramic cliffside views of Ransom Canyon. There's truly nothing else like it. Utah's Red Rock Country hides many secrets, but perhaps the coziest is the Bedrock Homestead, a modern cave house. This 3-bedroom home was carved out of a sheer sandstone cliff face. From the outside, all you see is natural rock wall with a few windows and a wooden door blending into the stone. Step inside though, and you enter a surprisingly airy 2,100 square foot dwelling with smooth rock walls and all the comforts of home. Vermont's most unusual house takes inspiration from a prehistoric creature. The Dimetrodon House in New Fane is an experimental solar home built in 1979 whose roofline resembles the spiny sail of a Dimetrodon, a dinosaur-like reptile. The south-facing roof is a series of tall, triangular wedges, solar collectors that not only generate passive heat, but give the house a striking jagged profile. It was designed by architect William Reinecke as part of the 1970s energy-conscious movement. Inside, the multi-level home features exposed wood trusses and funky angled ceilings following that spiky roof. A greenhouse atrium helps heat the house and provides a sunny indoor garden even during cold winters. In rural Virginia stands a house that looks like a cluster of giant huts fused together. Aptly nicknamed the Hut House, this 1919 home is built to resemble an African-style roundhouse compound, a truly uncommon sight in the Old Dominion. The structure comprises several cylindrical huts with conical roofs, all interconnected inside. The largest hut holds the main living area. In Olalla, Washington, a short drive from Seattle, lies a home that could be straight from a storybook. Commonly called a fairy tale house, this private residence is a handcrafted marvel of cobbled stone, crooked timbers, and enchanting gardens. Built in the 1980s by a couple with a penchant for all things fairy tale, the property includes whimsical touches, like a drawbridge entrance over a pond and a secret library hidden behind swinging bookcases. The interior continues the magic with carved woodwork, colorful murals, and antique fixtures. High in the hills of West Virginia sits a home with a distinctly witchy vibe, the Witch's Hat House. While it might look ancient, it was actually built in 2002. The interior is open concept, with spaces configured about a fireplace-stairwell combo, which might make it hard to imagine furnishing. Needless to say, it's highly unusual not just for the area, but just in general. Tropical jungles in Wisconsin don't usually mix, but step inside Milwaukee's famous jungle house and you might be convinced otherwise. This normal-looking suburban home hides an interior decorated floor-to-ceiling in jungle-themed murals, faux foliage, and wild animal ephemera. The previous owner, an artist and outdoorsman, spent years transforming the inside into an Amazon rainforest fantasy. Walls are painted with dense trees and waterfalls, and ceilings have parrots and monkeys peeking out from leaves. Driving through Wyoming, you might do a double take at the towering wooden creation known as Smith Mansion. This multi-level log structure rises precariously on a hill, all staggered decks and mismatched beams, looking like a rustic skyscraper or a giant kid's treehouse. Francis Lee Smith, an engineer, started building it by hand in the early 1980s and never really stopped, adding floor after floor, balcony after balcony, reportedly without any formal plans. Tragically, Smith fell during construction in 1992, and the mansion was left unfinished. And with that, I'll turn it over to you. Which one was your favorite, or perhaps your least favorite? Let me know down below in the comments section. My goal for this year is to reach 1 million subscribers, so if you are among the 1 to 2 million monthly viewers of this channel who are not subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and let's reach this goal together. As always, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time on This House.